Recording started. Now, the cost per equivalent unit. How to calculate the cost per equivalent unit? So, cost of the period means all the expenditure for that particular time, that particular period, divided by equivalent unit of production for that particular period. So, in this way, we will be able to calculate the cost per equivalent unit for the period. Now, look at this. Now, assume that the Matrix is the name of the company, incurred 27,600 in the production cost for the 11,500 equivalent units of production. What was Matrix cost per equivalent unit for the period? So in this way, we know these are the expenditures in dollars and divide by the number of units that 100% that we considered are produced. So now if we have calculator, so from the calculator, what you can do, 27,600 divide by 11,500 and answer will be 2.40 per equivalent unit. So this is the right way and very simple way to calculate the units cost, per unit cost. Now, so equivalent units of productions. There are two alternative approaches for calculating equivalent units of production for each cost category. The first is the weighted average method and second is the FIFO method, which is known as first in, first out method. So first in, first out, it means that the opening stock in the work in progress that will also be considered, right? So first in, then first out. The the unit which is entered in the production unit first, that will go first, right? But a weighted average method is a different. I'm just going to explain these two methods in detail here. Now take an example here for the weighted average method, WACM. Under the weighted average method, equivalent units will always be calculated as follows. The first one, units are transferred to the next department, or maybe department A to department B, or maybe from the work in progress department to the finished goods department. Then that is the, for example, 10,000 here. These are the 10,000 units. Next, we will add equivalent units in ending work in progress inventory. So ending, this is I'm talking stressing this closing stock, ending work in progress inventory, right? So first that are transferred and second ending. So these two will be added and will be considered as the equivalent units of production in case of weighted average cost method. Now look at this. We have the opening stock here, 300 units, 40% complete and 20% complete. But we are not going to consider these two as a percentage, because in this method that we are going to consider the work in progress closing stock. The work in progress closing stock, not the opening one. This is weighted average method. How to calculate? I'm just going to explain. So look at this. That we have 300 units in the beginning of the month, June 1st. Then 6,000 units that started into production in June. Now we can say like 300 unit plus 6,000 units, 6,300 units, they were in the production process during this period of 1 month. Then later on, what happened? That some of the units, let's say here 5,400 units that were completed, totally completed. And once the units are completed, why to keep those units in the factory where the production is going on? Always try to move those products to the other department, right? So now these goods, that were completed 5400 and 100% that they were transferred to the next department. So 100% material and 100% conversions that is implemented here, right? So 5400 units is transferred. At the closing, 900 units you can see. So for the 900, you can see that 60% of the 900 is 540, and 900 into 30% is 270. So that sorry, 180. So 900 into 30%, that will be 270. Yes. So now in this case, look at this slide. 5400, that is the material and conversion units. Units were completed as far as the material is the, it means 100% material that we put on the on creation of this unit for the making of this unit. And conversion cost means direct labor and manufacturing overhead, right? 5400. Next, work in progress at the end of the period. 60% of 900 units which were also there at the end of the period. Now 540 in case of material and the 270 in case of conversion. If the total is the 5940 and 5670 for both material and conversion respectively. So these were units which are totally completed. Now look at this. At the beginning, 300 units were work in progress, and 5100 units are started and completed. At the end, you can see 900 units were also there. So it means the 5400 units were completed, and 60% of the 900, that is the 540, 5940 equivalent units of production in case of material. I'm talking about the material here. Material which is already that we have calculated. The same thing. The 540, how the 540 that we calculated, that I have just explained here. The 540 here. So this is the 60% of 900, like this. And if we talk about the conversion, then 30% of the 900 that we have here. And the total is the 5670. Now, if we talk about like how we create the production report, so production report that we will prepare step by step here. The section 1, section 2, section 3. The section 1, for example, production report for the section 1 is a quantity schedule with a computation of equivalent units. So we will calculate the equivalent unit for the quantity that was scheduled, right? And a computation of the cost per equivalent unit, that we will divide the cost divide by the unit. So now the cost per equivalent unit we will be able to calculate in the section 2. Section 3 is a reconciliation of the cost flow for the period. We will check it once again. Now let's see. Double Diamond Sky uses process costing to determine the unit cost in its shaping and milling department. Double Diamond is the name of the company that uses the weighted average method cost procedures. Using the following information for the month of May, let's prepare the production report for shaping and milling. Now we are going to create the production report for this company. So there are two departments like shaping department and a milling department. Okay, so what will be the production report and how we will prepare this one? This is the information available in front of you. This is the information which is available in front of you. Now you are supposed to complete this task, and I'm giving you around 10 minutes. I'm giving you 10 minutes. You will try to use this one The first on the basis of weighted average method. So we have this information in front of us, right? So now what to do? So we need to complete all the three sections. So look at the first one. Now, the first step is saying that you need to be accounted for in the work in progress at the very beginning of the period in the month of May. That was 205,000 that we started into production, and total was at 5,200. We know that 4,800 units that were totally completed and also transferred to the next department. So that we have put it here as a material as well as the conversion. So equivalent unit 4,800, 100% that were completed. Now next step one, right? So quantity schedule with equivalent unit. So in this case, we know that the closing stock is 400 units. From the 400 units, we know that material is 40% completed, right? And 25% is the conversion cost is that we have completed. It means 160 and 100 that we will add in the material and we will add in the conversion as far as the work in progress. What is the meaning of this? It means the 400 units are also in progress, and which is not finished. This is in the process, not finished, but we can say the material which is required, right? So 40% of the material that is required and 60% remains, and 25% is the conversion, that conversion cost that we have incurred. 75% of that is still remaining, right? But whatever that we have completed, we are going to add it as a unit. So the percentage is also given here. So once that we have added the 4960 and 4900, this is for the conversion, like we will calculate the cost of unit, equivalent cost of unit will be calculated. So what will be the unit cost that is in front of you? We know that at the beginning, the $4,000 cost that was given at the beginning. So which consists of 3,000 plus 1,000 for the material and conversion respectively. And the cost added that was 74,000 and 70,000. If we add these two, the total will be 144, and the total cost is 148,000 units. Now equivalent units that we know, this is 4960 and 4900. This is the part one. That part two that we have completed. Step two means computation cost per unit that we are going to calculate now. So here 77,000 divided by 49600, that will be 15.524. So what I did, 77,000 here divided by 4960. 77,000 divided by 4960, 15.524 rounded. Next, 71,000 divided by 49 is a 14.49 that we done it here. Now, if we are going to add these two, this one and this one, if we are going to add it, that will be the total cost per equivalent unit. So that will be the total cost per equivalent unit. Now that total cost is 30.014, and this will be implemented only for the completed unit. Let's say the 4,800, step 3. Now we are going to check it, reconciliation. 4,800 that we have here, the 4,800. So 4,800 into 30.014, this much. 4,800 into 30.014, because this cost is for the total cost for the full unit, for the completed unit. So completed unit we have this much. This is not completed. This is not completed. We know like 160 units are there, but what will be the cost for this, that we have already calculated for the material as well as for the converter, and we will implement here. Let's say the first one is a material one. So material here is, so 160 units of the material that we have already put, that is in the progress or that is in the process. So this is the amount 15.524 which is already calculated. So now this is the cost we have here. And for the second one, for the conversion cost, we have already calculated. If we make a total of these two, that will exactly be the same, that $148,000 that we have already calculated before, right? So in this way that we have calculated on the basis of weighted average method. Now, next is FIFO method, the first in, first out, the second method that we are going to explain. For the second method, the FIFO method of process costing is a method in which equivalent units and the unit cost relate only to work done during the current period. During the current period, it means the work which is done during the current period of time. Under this method, both beginning as well as ending work in progress or work in process, inventories means stocks, are converted to the equivalent unit basis. In the weighted average method, we just calculated the closing stock, but in this case, we will calculate on the basis of opening as well as closing both. Now let's see. So we have here exactly the same example. Everything is same. We have not changed, but the method is changed. Next, so in this method, we know that the 200 units at the beginning, 200 units at the beginning, we have 4,800 units completed and transferred in the month of May, right? So the units started into the production in May. It's a total 5,000 that we started, and 4,800 finished, and still the 400, like 200 from this and 200 from this. The 400 units you can see here, that will be the closing stock. That will be the closing stock. Okay. Now in this case, 200, and we know that 50% complete. 200, that 50% is complete. It means if it is 50% complete from the beginning of the process, it means that 4,600 units that were totally completed plus 100 units which that we have taken from the beginning work in process, and 40% that we have taken from the end work in process. So 40% on the 400 units is 160, and total will be 4,860 equivalent units of production. You can see it here. Now we know that from where that's 4,600 unit it has calculated. Look at this. The 5,000 units that we started, right? The 5,000 units that were started, but at the closing, at the end of the period, 400 units were produced. Mean that is in the closing stock. So 5,000 minus 400 is equal to 4,600. It means 4,600 units started and completed. Okay, next we have conversion cost. We are going to calculate. The first of that we have calculated material cost. So material units, actually material units. Now we are going to calculate the conversion. So in the conversion, exactly the same thing. We know some percentage. So percentage, what is the percentage? Percentage you can see here, material 40% complete and the conversion 25% complete. So look at this for conversion. In the conversion, you can see that in the beginning, 30%. So 30% is complete. 30% is complete. Okay, it means the 70% is here, that is equivalent unit. The 70% here is an equivalent unit. The 4600 units are started, it will remain the same here. It's a started and completed. And work in process 400 units we have here. So 400 units, 25% complete. It means we know that 25% here, look at back, 25% here, that is the conversion 25%. So 25% will be calculated on the basis of 400. It means 100 units completed. This means 100 equivalent units that we have here. Okay, for the conversion. But for the conversion, if we talk about the beginning, at the beginning, 30% was completed. But we know that 70% was the remaining. According to the FIFO method, first in, first out, this material was came first. So definitely 30% of that was completed. Now the rest of the period, rest of the amount, and 70% we will calculate on the beginning. It means 70% of 200, 140, that will be equivalent unit. So why we have calculated? We assume and we know that the units of which were started at the beginning of the month, definitely that have been finished up. If that have been finished up, it means at the very beginning only 30% was completed, but this year 70% was completed for this particular period. That's why that we completed, well, just we calculated 70% of 200, that is the 140. So 48440, that will be the conversion unit. Now look at this, 4840 and 4860. Now in this case, we know that material and conversion equivalent cost that we are going to calculate. The units were the total 200 at the beginning, started 4600, and the work in progress 400. Now for the material is 100, 140. And for the work in progress at the period of on 31st of May, at the end of the period, 160 and 100. So this is the cost. Now look at this. The cost to be accounted for work in process May 1st, that was 4,000. That we know very well. That was 4,000 at the beginning. If you look at this, the 4,000, 3,000 plus 1,000, that is the 4,000. And this is 144,000. This is also given, and this is also given. So these are the units. These are the cost in dollars. So the cost in dollars that we have added here. So 148, it was exactly the same, which we have already calculated on the basis of weighted average method. Now just we are calculating on the basis of FIFO method. So we know that this and these two costs that are added here. Now the unit cost, this divided by this, and $70,000 divided by 4840. This is that we have calculated cost per equivalent unit. If we add up these two, it will be 29.68. 29.689. So this is the calculation that we have done. Now we want to reconcile that. So reconciliation of this cost, it means the material that we have here, 100 units, multiply by 15.28 here. Second, 140 units, multiply by this, and then total will be 7548 here. That will be the total cost. So 7548 is the total cost plus 46 multiply by 29.689, and the total will be 144,118. This is that we know this is the total cost transferred. If this is the total cost transferred, now look at this. Look at this 160 that we have calculated for the end of the period, work in progress for the end of the period. 160 units multiply by this, then 100 units multiplied by this. Now we have here 3882 and total will be 148,000. That is exactly the same. So reconciliation is completed. So I'm just going to show you once again. Look at this. When we go back, we will see exactly 100 units, 140, 160 and 100. Now on the basis of this unit, we have calculated the cost per unit, these two, and on the basis of these two, that we are going to multiply these units and verify, and after verification we come to know that 148,000 total cost will come. Exactly the same thing that we have completed now, right? For this, that it is mean from the work in progress May 1st at the beginning. So at the beginning also that we have calculated for material and conversion. Also we have calculated for the end of the period for the material and conversion both, and made total of this as 148. Now, so what is the difference between these two, the weighted average cost method and the FIFO method? So weighted average cost method says that it combines the beginning work in process inventory, means units and cost, with the current period's unit and cost. And for the FIFO method, it separates the beginning work in process, means cost and units and cost, from the current period's unit and cost. So the first one is combined and second one is separated. This is simple and less detailed, the weighted average method. FIFO method is the detail oriented and therefore more involved. In case of weighted average cost method, uses a cost per equivalent unit that is an average number and is therefore not reflective of the current period's performance. But in the FIFO method, uses the cost per equivalent unit that is specific to the current period and is therefore reflective of the current period performance as well. Weighted average method is not very useful to assess the cost control when beginning inventory level are substantial, means big one. But the FIFO method that can be used to assess the cost control even when the inventory level is substantial. So at the end of the period, at the end of this chapter, what we say that job order and the process costing, the two type of costing. This is the previous chapter that we completed, job order, and this is the process costing that we have completed today. Both are similar in that they both assign cost of products. They are different in that job costing track cost for each unique job, whereas process costing has a production report for each processing department, right? Direct material and direct labor are traced and overhead is assigned to each processing department. These costs flow from the work in progress inventory to the finished goods inventory. Partially completed units in the work in progress are expressed in terms of equivalent unit fully completed. So companies can choose between the weighted average method or FIFO methods to calculate the equivalent unit EU on cost per equivalent unit and the production report.